It's a bit of funsies trying to figure out where you're meant to look. Here. No, here. But I also don't want to make you uncomfortable, so here. Here, here, here. Does anyone else struggle to make direct eye contact in person? I can now, but I still do the whole I just don't want to make them uncomfortable, but also it's not entirely comfortable for myself to constantly be. It feels like this. Hello, look at me. Let me count your chin hairs. You've got a big one in your nostrils. So invasive. Have you seen the movies Klaus or and A Christmas Story with Jim Carrey though, that one? Just hoping, actually no, I wouldn't hope for someone to come around the corner and answer. I feel like I would leave my body. I ask because these movies are two movies that I dearly love a lot. Do I watch them every year for Christmas since they came out? Yes. Oh well, A Christmas Story, I wasn't exactly watching that until... Actually, I can't remember when I started watching that movie. However, I do remember when Klaus came out. The first time I watched that movie, only sent me up into the clouds of joy and glory. I love that movie. I have such a fondness for it, and I hope that they never take it off Netflix. I'm concerned. The movies that Netflix makes, they're not out on DVD. So what then? I need this movie physically. I don't want to ever forget it. I don't want to. I really don't. That's how much I love it. If you've watched it, you'll know the storyline for both is they are deeply meaningful. They resonate in a lot of ways too to the collective, to general society. Let's start with A Christmas Story. I'm giving you the short version of an explanation of the movie. It starts off as a man who is so engulfed in his own greed that he doesn't see the ripple effect that that greed is having until, what was it? Christmas past, Christmas present, and Christmas future ghosts. Technically, I feel like the Christmas future one was just the Grim Reaper. And not really. Is the Grim Reaper a ghost? They show up to show him, obviously, his past, his present, and the future that he will continue to have if he doesn't change. And essentially, because of all of that, he goes through a major transformation and turns it all around. And then with Klaus, it is about, I don't know how old he is. I really don't how old Jesper is. He obviously starts off with a privileged attitude. And because of that attitude, gets sent off to be a postman in Pittsburgh, was it? No. Smearensburg, that's it. Smearensburg. And he gets there and realizes that basically there are two communities that are at war with each other. And they don't need a postman. And he's not allowed to come home unless he has mailed 10,000 letters, I believe it was. So, or if he does come home and he hasn't done it, he spends a life in the gutter, quote his father. So the movie unfolds the story of his experience being in Smearensburg and the learning experiences that he goes through. The biggest being that he doesn't actually realize that his behavior to wanting to go home so badly back to the life of privilege is actually changing the behavior of the town and the war these two communities have been in for generations. In a really good way. But he starts to see it as the movie goes on. Along Jesper's agenda, he meets Klaus. They come together as a duo, not exactly, coming together with joy of doing this, but they come together because Jesper has an agenda, but Klaus wants to help one particular child by delivering a toy, and then that child tells other children who give these letters to Jesper to deliver to the toy man, who's Klaus, and then it just grows from there. Before you know it, I think you get the idea that I don't want to spoil the end though. I'm not going to spoil the, I don't know, like now I'm discombobulated. What do I do? I won't be spoiling the ending anyway. I don't even need it. The purpose of me talking about these two movies is because of the journey of Ebenezer Scrooge and Jesper. I highly recommend, even if you just Google, so you might get a better understanding of why I'm referencing them both. Ebenezer Scrooge came from trauma, and that manifested itself into a fear of poverty, a fear of survival, a fear of not having. And his life just continued to grow through that. However, I think with Jesper, not having human experiences external from himself and learning about the human experience that he's in led him to, as well as what he grew up with, led him to living in a very sheltered box. And that's sort of that was his character, his persona. And going to Smearensburg really tested that out. Really tested that out. Where I connect this with human beings is I converse a lot on the topic of who people are. I think it's important to care about who people are. The movies are not the only examples that I'm going to be using in this video, but they are a starting point in realizing that something that we grew in, a systematic belief system, ideology, mindsets, teachings even, they can be deconstructed and reconstructed. You don't need to go through the Ebenezer Scrooge way. Well, I can't speak universally with that. If anyone has had that experience, please let me know. I'd love to hear your story. But nonetheless, I do believe that human beings are very capable of self-reflecting and really understanding the importance of what you create, understanding the importance of seeing what you're creating and what you're putting out there as a fellow human being. If you've watched A Christmas Story, you'll know that Ebenezer Scrooge, from the mindset that he had, from the fear that he had, was creating environments that were completely unsafe for the people around him. Look at Bob, his assistant, was he? Might have been called something else. I'm going to say assistant. The way that he treated Bob, giving him barely enough pay for him and his family to survive, wouldn't even give the man some firewood, like enough to have a proper fire to keep warm. Bob in the movie doesn't let it affect him, but it does affect them in how they live. There was a part in the movie where Bob says to his family something on the lines of, I hope my children get to have a turkey one day. Or the mother says it. She says, Bob's wife says, I hope the children get to taste a turkey one day. And Bob says, maybe one day. Maybe one day. One of their children also, Tiny Tim, is very ill as well, and they don't have the affordability to get him the care that he needs. So the ripple effect from what Ebenezer Scrooge, the state that he's living in, you're seeing various images of that with Bob, with also how he spoke to two men who came to him and asked how much he would like to donate. And this was during Christmas. What was it again? To give the homeless some food and drink. Literally trying to remember increments of the movie, and it's working. And his response was that they should be in workhouses. And I've seen history about workhouses. I've read history. Well, the stuff that people, like human beings, created. Anyway, Ebenezer basically says that they should just go to a workhouse or jail, or that them passing would decrease the population. He says some other stuff with that. In that moment, he does not see what his words, his choices, his behavior is creating within his own energy, within his own space, but also what he's created externally from himself. But he sees it through what is being shown to him by the past, present, and future ghosts. And by seeing the ripple effect that his fear had caused and what would be the ending result, it basically shocked him into change. Sometimes we don't see the consequence of the choices that we make. Sometimes we say things and we move through our days thinking that what we've said has had no impact. When we decide to choose this option rather than this option, sometimes you don't see the ripple effect of the option that you chose. But know that it's there. I'm not going to say in every part of this human experience that every word has something after it. I'm not going to say that. But when it comes to human behavior, our society is a great example of that. What you see happening currently, what has been happening throughout the generations that's in history books, has come from a human being. From themselves, not from their looks, from themselves, from their choices, from their personality, their characteristics, their ideologies, their internal belief systems. Who we are as human beings has been creating society for generations. Who we are as human beings continues to evolve it, whether that is for the health of human beings, for the goodness of human beings or not. Unfortunately, that is not as common as the Ebenezer Scrooge way. With Jesper, on the outside, he looks like a privileged human being that is selfish and self-centered enough to be so consumed by it. But Jesper is just another human being in fear. Fear of the loss of the life that he's always known. I mean, his father basically says, get your 10,000 letters or don't come back. He's always known that life. So he's taking a journey into a life that he's never known before. And as human beings, we generally feel that. Not everyone. I can't say everyone because I can't speak for the universal experience. But it is something that we collectively resonate to. The fear of going outside of what we've always known. The life that we've always known. And he gets thrown into it with no choice. As time goes on, it wouldn't have been difficult at the start, and it wasn't, but as time goes on, even though his choices were for that fear, for that agenda, it ends up awakening him to a life outside of that he doesn't need to be in fear or survival for that life anymore, that there is something outside of it that he also resonates to and grows to love, and it changes him. Ebenezer Scrooge, if you look at his character, he needed the external for his continuous feeding of his fear, for what he thought was his survival. So he took from other people. He also made sure that they didn't get more than him, that they stayed where he thought they should be at, right? And that continued to help in his thinking, his survival. With Jesper just needed to get himself back to that comfort zone. And what he was doing externally from that was anything that he possibly could to get there, but it wasn't saturated in forms of inhumanity. It was just self-fulfilling. If you look at the differences between both characters, it is quite interesting when you go a little bit deeper into it. I like to go deep into things. I really do, because it is, like I said before, it resonates to daily life. And they're both great examples in the way human beings move through their human experience, where you have some that their survival relies on other people. And it relies on maintaining to keep people at a certain level so they continue to be higher than that. You have other people who want to remain in what's comfortable, so whatever they do externally, it's not in the full intention of harm. The entire image is, I need to get back to what's familiar. I need to stay there. When you're talking about the human experience, every topic is a big topic, and to me that is the reality, at least, because I'll talk about something and then I will see other pathways that connect to it, and I think to myself, oh my gosh, this pathway just keeps going and going and going. And that's okay. There's a lot to learn. There's a lot to grow from. There's a lot that we need to learn from. And that is the realization that the power that we have needs to be seen. And it needs to be deconstructed in many ways as well. As an example, in our reality, if you take the position of a store manager, now, me knowing what the position needs from you, I'm not entirely sure. I've never been a store manager. But I do know the experience of working under one, of course. And if there's one thing that I have observed over thinking about that time, is even though they talk to people who are higher up than them, they still have a certain position of power that really makes or breaks the environment of the place they're working in. It's not just them, it's everyone, but they set the tone. They set the tone. And what I mean is, when you go into these positions, you're going in as yourself, obviously, and you're taking, like I said before, you're taking your characteristics, your belief systems, your ideologies, your mindsets, your wounds, you're taking it all with you. And you're moving into this space, and you are directing from this space. You are commenting from this space. You are looking at things from this space. And there are too many stories on Reddit, on TikTok, online in general, but even stories I've heard in person and experienced myself, where the treatment has been so inhuman that you wonder, and there's no repercussion, there's no consequence. How many times have those stories been told? One person has the ability to completely destabilize a foundation that maybe held some groundedness before. One person, that's all it takes. It takes one person to completely uplift something that was grounded, or something, a new environment, we'll say. It takes one person to step into that environment and set the tone. So when everyone else starts to come in, they are coming in to the space that this person set up. And now they've got to deal with whatever that space is holding. When you start working at a new job and you walk in, and after a while you get the hint of the bullying that's going on, and co-workers have joined in, that has set the tone for the environment. And now people are unsafe, including the new people that come in. And I cannot wrap my head around going to a job 5 days a week, maybe even 6, 7, even just one shift a week even. Stepping into such an environment that doesn't need to be that way. But human beings are actively choosing for it to be that way, because it fulfills something within themselves. Because there's confrontation, and people do not know how to handle conflict. They also don't know how to take accountability and responsibility. And that coming from someone who also had to practice to learn what that was and what that needed. In a society that was created to rely on work culture, it is not something that should be normalized, because it is not a solidified foundation where you have to walk into such an environment and deal with heinous behavior from people who choose not to do anything about it. But not even choose. They don't want to see. They don't want to hear it. They don't want to acknowledge it, because inhumanity has been normalized. Society was built on unkindness. I've said that before. Society was built on unkindness. If you look at history, human history, that is not saying that every single thing is and has been done through that. But it's been built on it. And it's still being built on it because of who people are. Every time you join a mother's group or a spiritual group, a church, how many people have religious trauma because of another human being and the multiple people that have followed that human being? I have religious trauma. It's not mine. It was created by someone else, by multiple people. It's not something that you walk in and go, I am here for the trauma. Give it to me. Unsafety is human created. The way that people have taken online spaces and made it out that if you're online, then you deserve the projections that you get because you've chosen to be seen. That is a human choice that you are making. You are choosing inhumanity, and you're choosing to meet people with that. You're choosing to make online an unsafe space, just as people choose to make out there an unsafe space. It is a choice. And it never seems to shock me that people don't realize that it can come back around, where you create unsafety just because you're not experiencing in that moment. You could in your life multiple times. Because if there is no space that holds a genuine care for human and kindness, how would you experience that as well? Especially in your most vulnerable times. You are a human having a human experience. I don't doubt there are going to be times in your life where you feel that deeper vulnerability because of things that you care about, things that you desire or want. And people that project online or project in person, they don't realize that you are a human and you care. You care about things. And what happens if those things are taken away from you? What if someone decides to do that? Maybe they already have. Don't become a regurgitation of what someone else has done. I know it's easier said than done. Trust and believe. I know it's easier said than done. But if another person decided to continue the unkindness, we will never know what true kindness is. If I decided to be like the people that made me have to sit in a psychologist's office for 9 years straight, I would just be a part of the unkindness that this system was set up in. I would just be another person, a part of it. I keep practicing. Even though I have my moments and I have my rants, I think that is pretty damn natural in a world that, to me, is obsessed with being projective in one way and another. I think there's a deep attachment to needing to use other human beings as a form of entertainment, needing to project, needing the high school nostalgic feeling of being the commander, the boss, the bully. These kind of environments are not set up for anyone. Not even the people who set them up in the first place, even if they got some form of gain from it, which people have, and you see it happening right now. In this day and age, you see it happening. The people who have gained from their inhumanity. But like I said before, and I'll say it many times, the reason why you see, what was the sentence? Bad people, what was it again? Why is it that good people always have bad things happen to them, but bad people never have bad things happen to them? It was something like that. And I truly believe in one form of this, because there's probably other forms of it too, and that's okay. But in one element of this, I truly believe it is because the system wasn't built on the true care factor of human beings. It was built on what human beings could do for other human beings, the productivity of human beings. What can you produce in your lifetime before you leave? There's obviously so much more to that conversation as well. But that's been built on another human being's ideology. Who they are. Who they are. Even within this conversation, the obsession with lookism, I feel like that was also implemented into our society to blind us from who people are. Because if you're looking at what someone looks like, you're not caring about who they are. And a lot of people are very much in the space of looking a little too much on the external rather than who people are internally. Which I think is also the reason why you see some people get away with what they get away with. Because of money, because of lookism. God, I know there's so many factors to this. I can't list them all. I'm one person. And I hate that you have to say this online because people think you can think of every single experience and say it. Every single thing. No. I couldn't fit it in my brain even if I tried to. And, I get things here and there and I look into stuff and I internalize it. But knowing every single trajectory that the human experience takes. But these conversations are here to teach, to guide. If we don't know, someone will show us. They'll give the guidance. And this is what this is. It's me presenting the guidance that we need to be looking at who we are as people. Because I can see the connection. I can see the connection to what we're seeing on the news with, another person that got away with assaulting another human being and only got 3 months in jail. And everyone in the comment section, oh my God, the justice system, da-da-da-da-da. Well, the justice system is another system that was built by human beings. A lot of people didn't see a lot of the inhumanity as inhumanity. Still, to this day, some people don't see the ill behaviour as ill behaviour, especially within families. Your uncle is allowed to do such and such because he's your uncle. A title is given a lot more power than who these people are as human beings and what they are doing to their family members. It matters more about the title. Where did that belief system come from? That a title means more. If you observe the statistics on family violence in any form, it's a lot higher than what you would experience out on the street. Because too many people invalidate their fellow family members for experiencing something they shouldn't have experienced from another family member. Image is prioritized above justice. And why is that? Why is image prioritized above justice for the person you apparently love? That doesn't come from a look. It doesn't come from the perfect shaped nose or lips. That comes from who someone is, who they are choosing to be, how they are choosing to go about something that is incredibly difficult to go through. Incredibly difficult to go through. But it says a lot how people respond to the stuff that is incredibly difficult to go through, no matter what it is. And it has the ability to grow healthier connections or ruin them. People deciding to cut off family members. I can totally see why, and I've been there, and I've done that. There's only so much that you can do with people who don't want to see themselves. I can't even invalidate that in some way because it took me a long time to actually know that it is a need to see yourself, to self-reflect, to look in the mirror and to be able to understand the person that you're looking at. It is a need. It is a need, like I've been saying this entire video, for the life that you continue to lead and what you put out there as you're moving through. And I care about that. I care about what I create. I care about who is a part of it. I care about how they feel in it. I don't have intentions to hurt or harm anyone. So I'm keen to practice. If there's something I need to know, I want to know. If there's something I need to do, then I will do it. And there have been times where I've been really uncomfortable Even times where I felt the internal resistance to it, but I'd rather feel uncomfortable than knowing that someone is sitting in a counsellor's office talking about something that I did and didn't take responsibility for. Just even playing a part in the inhumanity that is so in our faces in the day-to-day life, and the ripple effect that that has had on people, to the point where people do not trust other human beings or go out on the street just to antagonize and project and to fulfill the missing pieces that are within themselves. Like Ebenezer without the ghosts, recognize your fears, recognize your mindsets, recognize your behavior. Take the journey in practicing that. However that unfolds, I can't put it in this video because I can't speak for every individual journey. With my own journey, I wanted a healthier space to exist in, healthier connections with other people. But in order to have all that, you have to reflect on the person that is putting the energy into the opposite of that. You have to reflect on what choices you are making for the misalignment of all of it. Not about shame or guilt, but about recognizing. Recognizing that you might have been taught something like Jesper was, you might have grown up in something like Jesper was, but you do have a choice. You do have a choice, even if you're uncomfortable with it, even if it's difficult, you feel it in your chest, the heaviness of, I don't know what to do, I don't know where to start. I can't give you the answers. My journey is not going to be yours. We are different people. But I can say that however the journey unfolds for you, let it be for you in knowing that it is for you, but it's also for what you desire in the connection with other people. Even if it doesn't feel like it at times, because it might not. It didn't for me. At times it didn't feel like anything was getting better. It didn't feel like anything was evolving or growing at times. But compared to back then to where I am now, I've had to make some really hard decisions. Let people go. I've had so many conflicts and arguments, and it's been a lot. But still, I would choose healthier spaces and people who are willing to grow in the human experience of it all, rather than stay in stagnation and in spaces where people believe that their behavior is what it is. Their ideas are, it is what it is. Their ideologies are revolved around it. That's my preference, but at the same time, I've witnessed people who live amongst this also state that they want love and connection and desire with people. But if you're not recognizing yourself and the environment that you're existing in and feeding, and people are telling you that they don't feel great, or they're existing in this space, but they're not being able to meet the version of themselves in it, a lot of resistance starts to build. A lot of inconsistencies start to happen. A misalignment constantly reflects your connection, whatever it is. It doesn't flow, and where it's not flowing, it's remaining stagnant. So anyway, I'll leave you with a lasting message that what we do is not by our looks, it is by who we are. I will say it 1,000,000 times if I have to. I will have a lot more conversations about this. It doesn't end just here with any topic that I talk about. It's not just one video. There is so much to be said, but for now, my cheeks are turning into a tomato, and I don't want them to turn into a tomato. It's warm for some reason. I was just talking about the cold too, but anyway, take care, fellow humans.